This video will cover a couple of the selected answers for the questions in the study guide. We are going to start with number 1. On this question, we want to isolate B2. In order to isolate B2, let's multiply each side of the equal sign with 2. That way, 2 and denominator 2 can simplify. We will have 2a on one side equals h times b1 plus b2 on the other side. To reach b2, next step is going to be dividing each side by h. These will cancel. 2a over h is equal to b1 plus b2. Our last step is getting rid of b1. Since b1 and b2 are added to each other, we don't need to divide, we will subtract instead. B1 is a positive value, so I will subtract B1 from each side to get rid of that B1. We will have 2a over h minus B1 is equal to B2. Let's look at number 3. In order to leave y alone, I need to see what's happening to y. B was multiplied with y, and then ax is another term. So if it's a separate term, I will get rid of it by addition and subtraction. In this case, the positive ax, I'm going to subtract ax from both sides. We will have negative by is equal to negative ax plus c. Please pay attention to the fact that I took the subtraction in front of by. It turned into a negative by as a term. My next step is going to be getting rid of b by dividing each side by b, because that b was being multiplied to y value. If I divide each side by negative b, y will be equal to negative ax plus c over negative b. Our final step is going to be separating the denominator to each term that's on the numerator. I have y is equal to negative divided by negative is positive a over bx. Positive c divided by negative b is negative c over b. Adding a negative is subtraction. Let's look at number 6 next. I have a 1/2 y plus 4x. I want to get rid of 4x first here. Subtract 4x from each side. We will have 1/2 y is equal to 13 minus x minus 4x. We can do combining like terms first. I'll have 1/2 y is equal to 13 minus 5x. I can multiply each side of the equal sign by 2. We will have 2's canceled here. Y will be equal to 13 minus 5x times 2. Now we will distribute the 2 backwards in. We will have y is equal to 26 minus 10x. But we will rewrite this as y is equal to negative 10x plus 26. So it's in function form. Let's look at number 8 next. Subtract 2x from each side. We will have negative 6y is equal to negative 2x plus 18. This time, instead of switching it around later on, I put my x first right away and then the number. Next, I want to divide each side by negative 6. We will have y is equal to negative 2x plus 18 divided by negative 6. I will assign my denominator to both of the numerators and simplify. Y is equal to negative divided by negative is positive. 2 and 6 can simplify to 1/3 x. Positive 18 divided by negative 6 is negative 3. Adding a negative is subtraction. This will be our final answer. Let's look at the word problem together. We have an equation that's given. We want to solve this equation for x. So let's subtract 25 from each side to leave x alone. C minus 25 is equal to 12x. Let's divide each side by 12. Then x will be equal to c minus 25 over x. Oh, sorry. C minus 25 over 12. Next, we are going to evaluate by using this new formula we created. It says, how many nights have you bowled if you spend a total of 145? This is your total cost of 145. If your total cost of 145, we will just substitute that in. 145 minus 25 divided by 12, which will be 120 divided by 12, which is equal to 10 nights. Here's our next question. We are going to look at the domain and range, but let's determine if this is a function or not. If I do my vertical line test, it looks like my vertical lines are touching only one at a time. So yes, this is a function. Next, let's check to see our domain and range. There are x and y values as ordered pairs on this graph. We are going to select x and y values for our domain and range. For domain, x values extend to negative infinity, so we will start from negative infinity and it will go all the way to positive infinity. Same thing will work with range values. Range values in this case starts from -2 because that's the smallest point. -2 is an actual point on the graph that we can use, so we will use a square bracket. Y values continue up with the graph to positive infinity, and infinity itself is a value we don't know, therefore we cannot use it on our graph, but we go up to infinity. So because infinity is not included in our solution, we use a regular parenthesis. Let's look at number 14 next. We are first going to list the coordinates of each given point. Here is -3, 3. Here is -3, -2. Center is 0, 0. We have a 1, 1. And we have a 2, 2. After listing each of the coordinates, it will be easy to find the corresponding values for f of 1. F of 1 means what's the y value when x is given as 1. I'll look at my list of numbers. When x is 1, y value is going to be 1 as well. So I'll put 1 as my answer. For next point, f of 0, when x is 0, right here, when x is 0, y value also 0. Last one, when x is positive 2, when x is positive 2, y value is also positive 2. That's how I would find the corresponding y values. Let's look at question 15 next. We are trying to find the domain of this expression. Domain is the x values we can use in this function, and when we think about x values we can use, there are some restrictions because of the denominator. A denominator itself cannot be equal to 0. So we know that an x minus 4 cannot be equal to 0. If I add 4 to each side, we will get x cannot be equal to 4. X can be any number but 4. I will write x is all real numbers except 4. X can be all real numbers except 4. Let's solve 16. It's the same way. If you would like, you can pause the video here and try it on your own first. In order to determine our domain, we look at the denominator. We know that denominator cannot be equal to 0. So x, if you subtract 6 from each side, x cannot be equal to -6. Here's how I would write this in set notation. X such that x belongs to all real numbers except -6. Let's look at 17 next. We have an f of 3 x value given. We want to find corresponding y value. Please remember that this is y is equal to 6x plus 9 style. So when we plug in 3 for x, we would have f of 3, which is y value, is equal to 6 times 3 plus 9. And f of 3 will be equal to 18 plus 9. F of 3 is equal to 27. So This would be our final answer. This tells us that when x is 3, y is 27. And 3 and 27 would be an ordered pair if we were to graph this function on the coordinate plane. Let's look at one last question together. We were given f of x as 40, and we want to know what x value would make this part of f of x equals to 40. So I want to find what x value makes this 40. Therefore, I put 40 for f of x, and I'm going to try to find the x value for this function. Add 5 each side. 45 is equal to 9x. Divide each side by 9. X would be equal to 5. So f of 5 is equal to 40. That means when x is 5, y value is 40.